I worked 2 jobs to support my son's dream. When he made it, he said, "You were just a stepping stone." So I posted the footage of me skipping chemo to attend his games. His sponsor saw it too. I'm Lorraine Vidal, 56, born and raised in the Steel Valleys of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm not college educated, never got a big job, and I've never left the country. But I've worked nearly every job you can think of: cafeteria lines, janitorial night shifts, hotel housekeeping, and more recently, customer service at a rundown hardware store off Route 51. What I am, or what I was, is a mother. And I gave everything to that role. I had my son, Dorian, when I was 27. His father, Mason, left before Dorian could walk. Said he couldn't be tied down. Said he wanted a life without burdens. The last time I saw Mason, he was stuffing his band equipment into a rusted-out van and muttering something about Los Angeles. He left me with an overdue rent notice, a baby with colic, and a barely working microwave. I didn't cry. Not then. I didn't have time for tears. I had a baby who needed milk, diapers, and warmth. So I went to work. I took the overnight shift cleaning surgical floors at UPMC Mercy and worked weekends waitressing at Dee's Diner in the South Side. I barely slept. I learned how to take catnaps in utility closets and to count tips with aching fingers. I got calluses from mopping and burns from grease pans. But I survived. We were surviving. Dorian was always different. Athletic, yes. But there was a fire in him. Even as a kid, he had tunnel vision when he wanted something. By age 8, he was already obsessed with basketball, watching old Jordan and Iverson tapes, mimicking dribble moves in our small living room, knocking over my thrift store furniture. His school gym coach once pulled me aside and said, "Lorraine, your boy's got it. You might want to get him in one of those traveling leagues." I nodded politely, then went home and Googled what an AAU league was. The fees were insane, $400 just for one season, not counting uniforms or travel. I didn't even make that in a week at the time. But I found a way. I sold my mother's antique watch, pawned a bracelet Mason gave me once, and picked up another cleaning shift on Wednesdays. That was the start of it. The beginning of 16 years of sacrifice. Dorian made varsity as a freshman, started getting scouted by D1 programs in 10th grade, and by senior year, he was being flown out to visit top schools. He chose Michigan State. Full ride. I cried like a child the day the letter came in. I thought we'd made it. I thought the years of empty fridges and pawned jewelry and missed birthdays were finally going to pay off, not for me, but for him. That was always the plan. My life for his future. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer a year after Dorian left for college, I didn't tell him. He was just adjusting to college life. I didn't want to burden him. He had enough on his plate. Chemo was brutal. The first round left me vomiting in the parking lot, hunched over a trash bin while my ride waited with the hazard lights on. My hair fell out faster than I expected. I wore wigs from the thrift store, some too tight, some itchy. But I made it work. I always made it work. And I made every game I could. Even when I had treatment that same morning. Even when my legs were like jelly and the nausea made it hard to keep water down. I packed snacks, brought seat cushions, and curled up in stadium corners when it all got too much. I have videos, hundreds, of me at those games. Smiling through the pain. Cheering with a cracked voice. Always cheering. Always showing up. When Dorian got drafted to the NBA 2 years ago, 15th pick by Charlotte, I screamed. Literally screamed in my living room, chemo port still in my arm. I thought that was it. The culmination of everything. He called me that night. Said he'd send someone to help clean up the house and maybe fly me out to visit during the season. Weeks passed. No one came. No tickets arrived. I didn't complain. I waited. Eventually, I flew out myself. I used the last of my savings, borrowed some from my friend Clara who works with me at the store, and booked a flight to Charlotte to see his first home game. I sat in the family section, wearing a custom jersey that cost me $90. He barely acknowledged me. No hug. No post-game dinner. Just a quick photo and a distracted "thanks for coming out." Then he left with Mariah Lynette, his new girlfriend with 600K followers and a face full of makeup. I told myself he was busy. Focused. Important now. But the straw came 3 months later. I was sitting at home, still in my nightgown after a long hospital day, watching his appearance on a sports podcast. They asked about his childhood, about his journey. And he smiled that polished media smile and said, "My past made me tougher, you know? But people don't realize you gotta let go of the things that held you back." My childhood, my whole life back then, it was just a stepping stone. A stepping stone. That's all I was? All we were? I didn't cry. Not right away. But the hurt, it came in waves. I stayed up all night, watching every video I'd taken over the years, me shivering in bleachers, holding signs, wrapped in scarves. Me pale and sick, filming his games from a hospital room. And I made a video. Just a quiet compilation. No music. No fancy transitions. Just footage of a mother giving everything. Shots of my chemo chair. My bald head under a knit cap. My hand on his old jersey. A title card at the end that read, "Stepping Stones Don't Skip Chemo for You." Then I uploaded it. To Facebook. Then Twitter. Then Instagram. And it spread. At first, it was just a trickle. A few likes. A couple of shares from people I knew, folks I hadn't spoken to since high school, church friends, former coworkers. But within 48 hours, the views climbed into the thousands. Comments started pouring in from strangers. This broke me. "You are a real one, Lorraine. My mom worked double shifts to help me get through college. I'm calling her right now. This generation forgets too quickly who carried them." I didn't expect any of it. I wasn't trying to go viral. Honestly, I didn't know what I was doing other than trying to feel like I still mattered, like I hadn't just been discarded after everything I'd done. But then the media got a hold of it. Local news reached out first, KDKA-TV Pittsburgh. They asked for an interview. I declined. I wasn't trying to make this about publicity. But then came a message that made my heart skip, a producer from ESPN's Outside the Lines. She said, "We're not trying to dig dirt. We're just moved. Deeply." And then came the fallout. I didn't tag Dorian in anything. I didn't name names. But anyone who watched that clip knew. The timeline lined up. The video was unmistakable, clips from televised games he played in. My shaky phone footage. My hospital bands. And me, always in the frame, always clapping, always present. It took less than a week for brands to start distancing themselves. One of his shoe sponsors pulled an ad campaign. Another issued a vague statement about values and reassessing partnerships. He was still under contract, but the shine around his image had dulled. Then I got the call. It was a Saturday morning. Cold, gray. I was folding towels in the living room when my phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered. "Mom." It was him. I hadn't heard his voice in months. He sounded tired. Maybe angry. Maybe scared. Maybe all three. "Why'd you post that video?" "Not hello. Not how you are. Just that." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "Because you called me a stepping stone." "It wasn't about you," he replied quickly. "It was just a metaphor. You know, for the struggle." I let the silence speak. Then he sighed. "Do you have any idea what this is doing to my brand?" I actually laughed. Not bitter, not sarcastic. Just incredulous. "I skipped chemotherapy to sit in cold stadiums for you, Dorian. I cleaned toilets so you could have cleats. I missed funerals, birthdays, paychecks. For your dream. And when you finally made it, all I got was a soundbite on a podcast calling me a stepping stone." He didn't say anything. "You wanted to let go of your past?" I continued. "Fine. But your past has a name. And a heartbeat. And no retirement plan." There was more silence. A long pause. Then a soft, almost broken, "I didn't mean to hurt you. But it was too late for that. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to ruin him. But because I wanted him to see. Really see what it took to carry him across that finish line." The call ended shortly after. He didn't yell. He didn't apologize properly either. Just hung up, like he didn't know what to say. Then came the messages. First from his agent, asking if I'd consider taking the video down. Said it was affecting ongoing partnerships. I ignored it. Then from Mariah, the girlfriend, on Instagram, "You're embarrassing him. This is a bad look." I didn't reply. She blocked me right after. Funny how people who've never worked a real job feel bold enough to critique someone who gave up their entire existence for someone else. But not everyone was against me. I got messages from other players' moms. One wrote, "My son hasn't called in 3 years. But your video made me believe again that it's not all in vain." Another said, "I saw you at that game in Greensboro. I was 2 rows behind. I remember how sick you looked. I've never forgotten it." I started getting requests to speak at community centers, single mom support groups. Even a high school in Raleigh invited me to talk to their graduating class. I didn't go to them all, but I answered every letter. And then came the sponsor rep, the one from the biggest brand Dorian had. She didn't call to pressure me. She called to thank me. "We never know what goes on behind the scenes," she said. "But your video reminded us that before the glamour, before the sneakers, there are parents like you." She didn't say whether they'd drop him. She didn't need to. The tone told me enough. Meanwhile, Dorian stayed quiet on his socials. No statements. No denials. Just old photos and promotional clips. But the comment sections told a different story. "Your mom's a hero. That video changed my life. You owe her more than a generic podcast quote." I didn't post any follow-ups. I didn't have to. The truth stood on its own. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. But I also started to feel something else. No regret. Never that. But a gnawing ache. The kind only a mother feels when her child becomes a stranger. I still had his old trophies on my shelf. His middle school MVP plaque, a laminated article from the Post-Gazette titled "Local Phenom Dorian Vidal Dominates on the Court." I still had the blanket he used to carry to bed, the one with little basketballs printed on it. And every night, as I brushed my thinning hair and prepared for bed, I'd look at those things and wonder, did I give him too much? Or did I just teach him too little about what matters? A few weeks passed. No more calls. No texts. No knock at the door. Just silence, thick, stretching silence that filled every inch of the house. I hadn't heard from Dorian since that phone call, and truthfully, I didn't expect to. But the world kept moving. I still had to work. Still had to take the bus down to the Ace Hardware on 10th, greet customers with cracked hands and tired eyes. Still had to sort through bills on the kitchen table and rotate the oxygen plant I kept by the window. And people kept talking. It wasn't just social media anymore. Folks around the neighborhood had started recognizing me. At the grocery store, the laundromat, even in line at the bank. "You're the woman from the video, right? You raised that NBA player, what's his name? Dorian? You're incredible." They meant well. Some even cried when they thanked me. But I'll be honest, some days I wished I could melt back into anonymity. Fame, even this sideways kind, is heavy when all you want is a moment of peace. The chemo had slowed down, thank God. My latest scans were stable. But the fatigue? It lingered. My bones ache in the mornings, and my appetite came and went like a flickering light. Clara brought over soup twice a week and helped me clean on Sundays. If not for her, I'd probably be surviving on canned ravioli and tea bags. Then came the letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real envelope. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew that handwriting was everywhere. Slanted, bold, and always pressing too hard into the paper. Inside, there were 3 pages. Folded neatly. Smelled faintly of the cologne I gave him for Christmas 2 years ago. "Ma, I don't know where to start. I've written this 10 times and ripped it up every time." I watched the video. All of it. Then I watched it again. And again. I've never cried like that before. Not in my life. I'm sorry. Not the kind of sorry that comes with a PR script. The real kind. The kind that keeps you up and makes your chest feel like it's caving in. You weren't a stepping stone. You were the damn foundation. And I bulldozed through you because I didn't want to look back and feel guilty. But I do. Every day now. They told me to say nothing. Let it blow over. Focus on rebuilding my image. I almost listened. But then I saw a photo of you at my high school game. That was the night your fever hit 102 and you still sat through the whole thing in a winter coat. I remember thinking back then, damn, my mom is tough. I should have never forgotten that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just a chance to fix this. Please. Love, D. I sat with that letter on my lap for over an hour. Just reading and rereading, as if trying to find the lie, the angle, the ulterior motive. But I didn't find any. And yet, I didn't run to call him either. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe part of me was still waiting for action, not words. The next sign came a few days later. I was working the register at Ace when this tall man in a navy suit came through the doors, clearly out of place. Didn't look like a hardware type. People stopped and stared. I recognized him immediately. His name was Jason DeLeon, a well-known sports agent. He repped Dorian, among other big names. He walked right up to my counter and said quietly, "May I speak with you outside for a moment?" I blinked, unsure whether to laugh or throw him out. Outside, he pulled an envelope from his coat. "Dorian asked me to give you this. He said if you refuse to talk to him, he'd rather you see what he's doing instead of what he's saying." I took it without a word. Inside? A check. No amount filled in. Just signed. I stared at it, eyebrows low. "He wants you to use it for whatever you want," Jason said. "House repairs. Medical bills. Travel. Or burn it, if that feels better. No strings attached. He just wanted you to know it's yours." I handed it back. "Tell him I didn't raise him to throw money at guilt." Jason nodded, like he expected that. "He also said to tell you, he resigned from 3 brand deals. Voluntarily." That made me pause. "Why?" Said he couldn't keep taking checks from companies that only loved the image, not the story. "He's starting a foundation in your name. Helps single moms fund travel for their kids in sports. Pays for training, gear, hotels. All of it." My throat tightened. "What's it called?" "Bridge Forward Foundation." I felt that name hit me straight in the heart. I didn't cry right away. Not then. I had a shift to finish. Customers to ring up. But later that night, in my quiet house with the hum of the fridge and my worn-out slippers, I pulled out the letter again. Read it from start to finish, hands trembling. This wasn't revenge. It never had been, not really. It was a reckoning. A reminder. A mother said, I was there. I mattered. You wouldn't be here without me. And now, maybe he finally understood. I didn't respond to Dorian's letter. Not right away. I needed time. Time to sift through the emotions still sticking to my ribs like dried cement. Time to see if this change was real, or just another apology designed to sweep things under the rug. But I kept my eyes open. I watched. The foundation was real. I saw the launch on local news, Bridge Forward Foundation, named not after me directly, but clearly for me. The logo had an arch that looked just like the Fort Pitt Bridge. The mission was simple: eliminate financial barriers for kids from single-parent homes chasing athletic dreams. Applications poured in. 2 weeks later, I got another letter. Handwritten again. This one came with photos. Smiling moms, kids holding new basketball shoes, gas cards, vouchers for hotel stays near out-of-state tournaments. One had a short note attached: "Miss Lorraine, your story reminded me not to give up. My son's playing in his first regional game this weekend, and it's all because of you. Thank you." It wasn't just talk. He was putting real action behind the apology. I could feel it. But I still hadn't heard from him, not face to face. Not where it counts. Until the night of the jersey retirement. I got the invitation in a thick white envelope. Gilt edges. Elegant lettering. Michigan State University requests the honor of your attendance. Dorian's number was being retired. Ceremony mid-game. Televised. National coverage. I stared at the card for a long while. And then I made a decision. Not out of pride. Not because I forgave everything. But because sometimes, the most satisfying revenge isn't loud or cruel, it's undeniable presence. It's standing tall in the place someone tried to erase you from, and letting them see they never had the power to break you. So I went. Not in some gaudy gown or anything showy. I wore a dark green coat, black slacks, and the same necklace Dorian gave me when he was 13, a little basketball charm on a thin silver chain. My hair had started growing back, soft gray wisps that I wore proudly. Clara came with me. She didn't want me alone if things went sideways. The stadium was packed. When they introduced me, the camera panned to my seat. Applause erupted. I hadn't expected that. I heard my name through the speakers. The woman who raised a star. But it wasn't until halftime that it happened. The announcer called Dorian to the center of the court. He stepped out in a tailored black suit, no flashy jewelry, no entourage. He looked out at the crowd, then back to me. Before I say anything about basketball, he began, voice clear but trembling slightly, I want to talk about my mother. He paused. I didn't always get it. I didn't always see her. Not really. I thought success meant leaving the past behind. But I didn't realize I was the past. Everything good in me came from her. And I called her a stepping stone. A hush fell over the arena. She wasn't a stone. She was a force. A storm that never stopped moving so I could stand still long enough to grow. He turned to the Jumbotron, which flickered on. And there it was, my video. Clips from the one I posted months ago. Me, hunched under a blanket, clapping from the stands. Me with 4 tubes in my arm, whispering encouragement to the screen. Me, bald and smiling and proud. Only this time, it wasn't sad. This time, there was music. This time, there was reverence. When it ended, Dorian took the mic again. I tried to erase her from my story. So now, I'm putting her back in. Forever. He pulled out a plaque. Hold it high. This is for her. The camera zoomed in, Lorraine Vidal courtside seating reserved in perpetuity. For the bridge that built us. My heart nearly stopped. He walked over to where I sat. And in front of everyone, on national TV, he knelt. Not dramatic. Not performative. Just one man, on his knees before the woman who gave him everything. Mom, he said, voice cracking. I'm sorry. I didn't say much. Just nodded, and pulled him into a hug. I let my hand rest on the back of his head like I did when he was a baby. And I whispered, don't ever forget again. That was enough.